Welcome back. I'm Ryan Schultz with TechInform.us here on the Ryan Knows Tech channel. We're going to take a look at the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 4S, not necessarily a iPhone 5 versus 4S, kind of more of a video, what does it feel like to have an iPhone 5 and use an iPhone 5 when you are very used to a year and a half with a 4 and then about a year with a 4S. I will have an iPhone 5 review coming in the future, I think, at this point. But we're just going to talk about the differences that I've noticed in terms of physical appearance, how it feels in the hand, performance, features, speed, anything like that when pertaining to the 5 and the 4S. And I guess you could also use this video to determine if it's worth getting the 5 over the 4S. And a lot of that comes down to your eligibility with your cellular provider to upgrade to the new phone. I know that if I use my existing line to do the upgrade, it would have cost well over $1,000 for me to go from the 4S to the 5, which I don't know would have been worth it. However, I was able to use somebody else on my plan. They were eligible for the upgrade, so I used that and then paired my number over with the new phone, and that seems to work really well through AT&T. So if you have a situation like that you can use, I highly recommend going into the AT&T store and trying it that way, because I paid the subsidized price of $399 for my 64 gig white 4S or 5 and my 32 gig white 4S. So these are just the boxes, as you can see. There's not a lot of a difference here. You can see that the product is taller, if I can get this in frame, by about a ½ inch here. Slightly different picture. Just has the name on the side and 2 Apple logos on the 5 box instead of the iCloud information on the 4S box. What you're going to find inside, aside from the phone, is pretty much the same. The sync cable did change. We'll talk about that really quickly. It went from the 30-pin connector that we've had for probably about 10 years to what Apple is now calling Lightning. You can see the difference in the size here. The speed is the same. It's still USB 2.0. People were disappointed about that, but that's the way it goes. The 32-pin was quite a bit larger. It's a little bit thicker, and their reason for upgrading or changing to the Lightning connector was so they could make devices smaller and thinner and just move on with the technology. We've gotten past the need for 30 pins all the time. However, that has created a bit of a stir. You now can't use your existing accessories that you've had with your previous iPhones and Apple products with an iPhone 5. It simply won't fit. There is an adapter available online for $30. They're not available in any stores yet that I've seen. I ask and they say they're coming, but they're not there yet. So we'll take a look on the bottom of the device and we can see just how drastic really that connector difference is. The 4S is on top, of course. Here we've got a speaker and a microphone on either side of the 30-pin. The 5's on the bottom, same deal, speaker, microphone. The Lightning's now in the middle, and the headphone jack has been moved to the bottom, presumably to save space up top for batteries or screen technology, whatever they're using up there. We can also see this thickness difference. I believe I'm correct in saying it is 18% thinner and 22% lighter, or I could have gotten those numbers mixed up. Anyways, it is both thinner and lighter than the 4S and the 4. On the left side over here, it's pretty much the same deal. Antennas on the top or the bottom, volume buttons are here, and then the toggle switch for silent. On top, the 5 is just bare aside from the sleep-wake button. iPhone 4S has the sleep-wake, and the headphone jack's on the top. And then this side, we both have SIM cards. However, with the 4 and 4S, it is the micro SIM, and the 5 is now a nano SIM. It's even smaller yet, so I don't know what's next, but it's tiny in there. Looking at them like this, immediately we can see that the 4S and the 4 is quite a bit smaller. Size difference here, it is maybe about the same size as the box, maybe a quarter to a ½ an inch shorter with the 4. And first impressions of using the 5 was really odd. You picked it up and it was immediately so much lighter in the hand. It feels a little bit better built in the way it's thinner. The thinness and the lightness and the size of the screen, which are pretty much the only 3 differences physically, were immediately noticeable and took some getting used to. But it was a really nice process. It feels amazing in the hand. It just fits really well. It's light, it's thin. It feels a lot more sleek, modern, up-to-date, better, if you will, than the 4S. And after using the 5 now for about 2 weeks, and picking up the 4S, it feels a lot like the LG Lotus. You guys remember that phone from a couple years ago that was like this tall? Thing was tiny, and this feels like such a little midget. You're looking for, just using this, you're looking for the extra row of icons. You're looking for the extra space in Safari, Music Phone, whatever app you're in, and it just isn't there. It feels very fat, it feels very heavy, and it feels really short, kind of like it was smashed. And then if you use that for a while and you go back to the 5, you're amazed at how thin and light and tall it is and more screen real estate you have, and it just feels so much better. However, if you're used to a 4S, just don't use a 5 and you won't have those feelings. So that could be an easy way to render that. Looking up at the top, you may be able to see a bit of a difference up here, if I can tilt these up for you. Obviously we have the speaker here for the headset, but our FaceTime camera is now quite a bit smaller, and it is on top. And then our ambient light sensor is still over to the left, but it too is, well, the ambient light sensor here is this little black dot on the left of the speaker, and here it is that oval thing above the speaker. So that has gotten quite a bit smaller. I don't notice any function difference. It seems to do just as well. If you have ambient light turned on, the adjust for brightness, auto brightness here in settings, brightness, and wallpapers. So I don't feel the difference there. Let's talk about performance. Immediately upon using the 5, and I will be honest, my iPhone 4S installation is stock from October 2011 when I got it. The 4S took quite a while, in my opinion, to open anything. Not necessarily loading web pages, but just opening apps was slower. And we'll see if we can demonstrate that here on camera. I know it's not totally fair. The 4S now has a few more apps running, but they are both full of stuff. There's about 40 gigs of content here and about 29 here. This thing is packed. If we open up Maps, everything that the 5 does just seems to be about 50% faster to me. It feels really snappy, and I really like that. What else can I open without? I think settings is open on both. But everything that happens is just instant, and that would be because of the new processor. We have an A5 processor. It's 1.2 gigahertz, underclocked to about 1. Every time you open Geekbench, it's a slightly different rating, 1.0, 1.07, 1.05. And I think it's definitely the processor that we're seeing the difference in speed, and the RAM. We now have a gigabyte of RAM in the 5 versus the 512 megs found in the 4S. So that would be our reason for the speed. Now the 5 does have more photos on it. We've got 10,948 versus 3,959. But both of them open and scroll very smoothly, I guess you could say. Taking photos is not something I'm going to do right now on these devices, but it is so much quicker on the 5. You can literally sit there and just hit the take photo button, and it is instant. It'll take 30 photos in like 5 seconds. Whereas my 4S seemed to really bog down and not like that. It's also a lot quicker switching to video mode from photo and using HDR photos. In iOS 6, which by the way, brings the exact same features to both devices. So if you've got a 4S and you really want a feature that's in the 5, aside from its physical appearance and technology, you're going to get that with iOS 6. The panorama mode, the new maps, anything that the iPhone 5 has software-wise, the iPhone 4S will have as well. Yes, it will be a little bit slower, the camera's not quite as good, but the functionality will be there. Like Passbook. We'll do another little test with Passbook here. I don't have anything enrolled in either, but the 5 was first to the table. I apologize for the glare from the window over here, but I hope you can see what I'm trying to display. We'll talk about the cameras real quick. Aside from being faster, the 5 camera is possibly 20% better. It feels like it focuses a little bit better, and the low light is definitely better. It definitely does a better job in low light situations. Unfortunately, I need to send this out to Gazelle today, so I'm not going to have a chance to do a comparison between the cameras, but there's tons on YouTube, and they're better than what I would do anyway. So if you would like to see a comparison between the two devices in terms of cameras, then go search YouTube. You will definitely find it. They're both 1080p video. They do a really good job with that. The FaceTime camera on the front of the 5 is now 720p versus the VGA camera on the 4S, so it has definitely improved camera quality with the 5. So aside from being a lot faster, feeling better, the screen real estate is awesome. I'm not seeing a lot of compelling reasons to go to the 5 over the 4S if you don't care about those things. For me, I use my phone all the time, and it was pretty important to me that I had the latest and greatest. You know me, I have to have the latest and greatest, and I did, and I'm thankful for that. So definitely the 5, if you can get it, then it's worth it to you. If you're worried about it, then it probably isn't. If you have a 4 or 4S, you're going to run iOS 6, you're going to have all the features. And let's bring that into battery life, something the 5 is disappointed me a little bit with, and that's due to its 4G LTE capabilities, and that's another big reason you may want to update to the 5. I should have mentioned that earlier. The iPhone 4S is HSPA+, which is kind of 4G, so definitely faster than regular 3G, but the 5 is 4G LTE. LTE stands for long-term evolution. Supposedly that's going to be around a while, bringing Wi-Fi speeds through the air, and it most certainly does. I live south and a little bit east of Cleveland, Ohio, about 30 minutes, and AT&T has a phenomenal presence here. On the 4S, back when I had a SIM card in that, and it was activated as my regular phone that I used every day, I would run a speed test on it here at my house. I would get about 8 megabytes down and about 5 up. Pretty good for coming through the air. I mean, that's Wi-Fi speeds just a couple months or years ago. The iPhone 5, on the other hand, I'm on Wi-Fi right now, and we've only got 2 bars here in my office. But if I were to go outside or in another room in my house that isn't secluded by trees, I would get about 23 down and about 15 to 20 up. It is amazingly quick. Using the personal hotspot feature, which I used to have on both phones, but now, obviously, since this is activated, if I were to turn that on and connect it to my Mac, I get about the same, maybe 15 down and 12 up. It is very, very, very quick. Definitely faster than my home connection at times, particularly during the evening when everybody's home and reading stuff online. So that could be a big reason for you to upgrade. They're both available on AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, so that's up to you. They all have different networks and totally depends on where you are. I went into the city and ran a test, and it was a little bit less, actually. I get better speeds here at my house than downtown Cleveland in terms of just the speeds of the 4G LTE connectivity. And that was true with the 4S as well. So that could be a reason to upgrade. But back to the battery. The 4S would pretty much get me through a whole day. I would get from maybe 8 in the morning to 10 at night. If I used it a lot, it's dead at 8. So I kind of had to have a Mophie juice pack on hand, which is right here. You guys know that. I think I reviewed that. Or another battery charger like this one from Nutrient, which is just a powered USB port. And I would have to plug that in. Now, with the 5, I don't think I'm using it anymore, but since it is faster, it's powering a larger display, it's got better cellular connectivity, it seems to use about 20% more power than the 4S does. And it's a slightly larger battery that's supposed to be able to deal with that. But at least in my experiences, it's really not, because it is dead by 7 or 8 at night, which is a pretty big inconvenience, if I'm honest, to have to go get one of these battery packs. Obviously, the Mophie juice pack won't fit anymore. So now I've got to carry this around in my car and have a spare lightning connector in there to keep it charged up. Now, if I want to make it last longer, I can turn down the brightness. They're both all the way up, so you can see it better on video right now. But I could definitely turn down the brightness and not use the LTE as much, and that would probably be a better experience. But in the way that I'm comfortable using it, it does use more power. But I probably use my phone more than most people, so keep that in mind. The last thing we're going to talk about in this video that's about twice as long as I wanted it to be, the headphones that come with both devices. These are the headphones that came with the 4 and the 4S, and as you can see, they are still in plastic. I have never used them. I use Bose, whatever they're called, Mobile In-Ear 2i headphones, which I love. And these aren't bad for coming free. I think they're better than anything you're going to find from RIM with Blackberries or a lot of the Android products anyways. It has the inline microphone and the volume controller, the play, pause, call, answer, and end function on there, and they sounded decent. They were okay if you wanted to go out and take a walk and just listen to something. They were there, they worked, they were cheap plastic. These are newer. These are called the ear pods. This is what's going to come with the iPhone 5. It comes with its own little case here. It's actually fairly easy to wrap back up in there. I've only had them out once. I listened to them. They are greatly improved over these from what I remember, but they are, of course, not like these. And I think Apple kind of tried to oversell these. They said they're great, they're better than the $250 headphones, and that's not true unless you find some piece of crap $250 headphones. I'm not going to bring up Beats in there, but they are better. They do seem to fit in your ears a little bit better. Build quality feels a little bit better, but they are still a free pair of headphones coming with a phone. So don't have too high of expectations, but if you're looking for something free, or I guess you could buy them on the side for 30 bucks. I can't say I'd recommend that, but they are better than these. So we have an improvement there as well. Anyways, I don't want to go on and waste too much time here. So the 5, for some people, it's going to be worth it. For some, it's not, and you've just got to decide that yourself. So you can run into the Apple Store. They've got tons of them out. They're black. There's black ones. There's white ones. And I'm just realizing I didn't even talk about the rear material here that they've used. One, this is sapphire crystal over glass, so it'll be harder to scratch. I never really had a problem with that with mine. The back of the 4S and the 4 is just a big piece of glass. I've got tons of scratches on. The back of the 5 is now a piece of aluminum, which I thought would be incredibly easy to scratch. Well, in the Apple Store, let's say I played with one and, accidentally tried to scratch it with a tungsten carbide ring, and it wouldn't scratch. So it's a lot stronger than I thought. I've been using this one for 2 weeks. There's not a mark in the thing anywhere. And the problems with Scuffgate that everybody was talking about, in my experiences, you would have to try pretty hard to scratch this. I've been using both of these with no case. I have been a lot more careful with the 5. Where I set it down, I try not to slide it on anything rough. But I feel that you could scratch it, it would just be harder. And then the material around the side is kind of a metal over here. I've seen people nick that up, so try not to drop it. Definitely try to get a case for it. There just aren't very many available right now. So there is my slight kind of a comparison, compelling reasons to upgrade to a 5 from a 4 or 4S. Leave me your thoughts and comments below. I'm sorry this video was so long, and I'll talk to you in a video probably next week. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like the content. Check out my Twitter, twitter.com/JamesRSchultz, and our tech blog, techinform.us. Talk to you guys later.